Hello everyone and welcome back to Podcasting is War with me, Criticold, and Fumetsu. This will be on our channel.
Hello.
We are today going to be discussing the spring 2021 season in retrospect, since we didn't get to do our impressions this time.
Or we just didn't want to do it. Because we watched so much.
And it was not a super enjoyable season for me personally.
Neither for me.
It was a lot of very middling feelings and jadedness to the medium.
And as usual, as I watch a season with 20 shows, or try to complete almost 20 shows, I have a very positive impression of most of them, the first 3 episodes, and then it goes downhill immediately. And I'm always like, why do I keep doing this? I know it happens every single time, but I keep doing it. Because we never learn, which is also a show that's mid. I haven't finished it though. But I know it is.
Well, we are not going to finish it.
We're never going to watch
so
that.
So the first show
anyway,
on our agenda
with...
is Fumetsu no anata, or To Your
Eternity. I thought MJ first.
No, because you said sort by score.
Oh, we do score. Okay,
we're sorting by score. Yeah.
Okay, let me
To
fix
Your Eternity
that.
is the first on the list. This is a show that we haven't gotten to finish because it hasn't finished. And it's based on a manga by one of our mutual favorite series, A Silent Voice. The same author, by the author of said series. What did you think of To Your Eternity?
I really liked the first and second episode a lot. I really liked the second episode over the first episode, which is different from other people. But we've watched 11 episodes officially of I don't know how much is out.
Yeah, I don't know either.
More than 11? Maybe 15 plus? We don't know. It is 20 episodes long, so it should be finished soonish. I've heard from people that it has lost its drive and they keep losing the interest, which I can also see in the More score, which is now an 8.59 instead of an 8.7 just weeks ago.
Still quite a good score.
It is a high score, but it did drop, so that's an observation.
Yeah. I had read the manga for this like a year or more before the anime came out, and I stopped after about 15 or so chapters because it just kind of began to lose me a bit as the story was moving on and introducing new characters and stuff, and like it's not really an epic kind of story. It's like pretty down to earth actually, with like the main protagonist Fushi meeting these different people in different villages and places and kind of just like mingling with their lives and then learning about it. But it's got like an interesting kind of theme about it. I mean, I can't say this for sure because we're not caught up and the show hasn't ended. But I get this impression that like the story is basically about Fushi meeting new people and learning about life, and then those people die and he like moves on, carrying with him their shape inside himself, which is a very interesting like
stuff too.
way to set up a story, and it makes for like very natural kind of emotional gut punches because you know that like probably all of these characters that we meet are gonna die, which either can be a turn off or an appeal to you if it manages to get you emotional.
For me, some moments got to me, and the show looks really pretty and has good soundtrack, etc., etc. Like it's the best looking show Brainspace has done in years, literally years. So, congrats! We finally have a good Brainspace show after literal years.
Manga adaptations these years recently have had really good production values when they're like a popular manga.
Yeah, anything that has been produced pre 2017 and still has ongoing manga with an ongoing anime adaptation looks like shit though. Wink wink. Implications. Foreshadowing. Anyways. As you said, there's appeal, or like, what's the opposite of appeal? Disappeal?
Let's just say so.
Let's make it a word, okay? Disappeal in the narrative being Fushi meets new people, stuff happens, they die, he takes body. For one, the opening spoils literally every character's death in advance, so you don't have to worry about that. It will literally be spoiled in the opening for you. I don't really mind that on paper, but halfway through, it kind of loses the drive, because now I'm just, oh, this one is gonna die. I wonder how they're gonna die. And it's always like, I don't know how to call it. There's always kind of supernaturally stuff. Yep. There's this giant ass beard that's bleeding out of his eyes. And that kind of became like a body Fushi took over.
Yes, a giant tortured bear.
Yeah, and it was like a ritual stuff. That was kind of cool for the world building aspects. But you kind of watch it, and then when you actually think about what that meant, you just don't really know. I really like the Sage stuff though. That is voiced by, I forgot his name. Hige's favorite Seijo. I forgot his name. Deep voice.
I don't know.
Come on, man. You can't mod me like this in the middle of a sentence.
What you were talking about.
The Sage, the narrator.
Tsudaken.
Tsudaken, yeah. He's a cool character. I think he's cool.
Mm.
And he kind of carries the show for me because he's like, it's just a good narrator, I think. But
he's the creator of Fushi.
Yeah, basically.
Who appears very sparsely throughout the story to like help him or exposit some information or something. But he's like an interesting kind of mystical figure.
Yeah. I think Fushi is cute. He acts in cute ways. He has like really strong drive of wanting to protect, which is like always nice to watch and have in a character that is literally born from a rock.
For the first part, he's basically like an animal. Like he can't really speak or like express himself or really think in complex ways. But like in the recent episodes we watched, which is like after a time skip, he has like kind of grown into this home that he's found and like become more of a human, basically. It's very interesting.
Yeah. So this point in time, I'm still somewhat engaged with it, but not to a great degree, and it depends on how it ends. But I just know that people that really love the manga don't like how the manga is going at all, to the point that they even dropped it. So like, even if this adapted content is the good part, I'm not sure if we're gonna continue anything beyond. Because I trust these sources personally.
It is a good but not more than good show.
Yeah, like the narrative, the premise is unique, but like the execution is not that much. It's just episodic / arc based narrative with a main character that drives it well enough so it can work, but it's not like, wow, favorite character, you know? I mean, you can have him as a favorite character, but
I can tell it's a little hard to put into words how exactly the story is built. It's just kind of an odd show, I think.
Yeah.
But I enjoy it enough.
But it's good. It's understandable why it's highly rated. Unlike the next show we're gonna talk about. I still like it. We'll see how it goes. Next one.
The next show is Vivy Fluorite Eyes Song by Studio Wit.
Wrote by Tape Nagatsuki.
Tape Nagatsuki and the other guy who I'm gonna blame for all of my issues with the show.
You can start.
Eiji Umehara is his name. I just think that Vivy was like a pretty cliche, pretty typical sort of sci-fi story about. It's about androids. If you played like Detroit Become Human or watched Ghost in the Shell, like you're familiar with a lot of the themes that come up. It also is like weirdly very similar to Violet Evergarden, but of course lacks the visual polish or
that's what I said too.
or emotional core of that show. But those things combined, I guess, has a very strong appeal to most people.
We liked the start of the show. We still didn't love it visually because it's just really average looking, minus the random makeup frames that are just jarring every time it happens.
Like people will disagree with us when we say this. So we will say like the action animation Sakuga is like phenomenal, and of course like the very detailed makeup frames, as they're called, are like very pretty, but it doesn't like come together in a very cohesive way.
Yeah.
Or as like a very memorable or compelling visual style.
Yeah.
It reminds me of like a lot of shows I've seen before, like Babylon or Plastic Memories, which is also like this kind of sappy, emotional series about androids.
Literally, the main character, Vivy, looks like the girl from Plastic Memories. That's her. That's literally her, just more adult looking.
She doesn't look that much like her, but she looks like an archetype for sure. There's a lot of anime characters.
Yeah, I mean they have
that fit this kind of like.
Well, what I mean with when something looks some way, it always means like art style and the general look of the show. Not when it's animated to the max, but yeah, the action when it was there was good. The action direction when it was there was good. But most of the time, characters are just running or standing around or looking at each other or standing in like a wide shot, and it looks average. Like the backgrounds are okay. The city landscapes are like the most forward, straight interpretation of a future you can expect. It's not like Psychopath City where it's actually unique looking. It just looks like a normal sci-fi city.
Yeah, because the world building isn't really that relevant in the story. The story is more like these 1 or 2 episode mini arcs about Vivy coming across like some android or person with a relationship to androids in like a particular predicament and just like entangling herself with their lives.
Yeah, so how the show is set up is in the future there will be a war between androids and humans, and the androids will just literally murder every human, and the only way to prevent this is to change certain events in history. Then we have like mini arcs of side characters that the show tries to interweb into the quote world building unquote, but it doesn't really hit. Like it doesn't really connect much. In the end, it's just normal, average, most basic world building in a way. Like we don't really see how androids and humans generally live together. There's a guy that marries his robot. He's apparently the first one. yeah, all these occurrences are seemingly rare. Something someone else noticed was that generally female robots take caring jobs, and male robots like security jobs, like police guys, but it's never really explained why. That could have been cool world building.
I mean, one of the most prominent combat androids who is like a side character is a woman or a female android.
Yeah, it was way later in the show, but every other robot is kind of like that.
It just felt like it was really following these kind of almost, I don't want to say templates, but templates of these certain emotional arcs. Like, I'm in love with this person, but then they were taken from me, or some such thing. And it's just very isolated from the larger story, and it eventually loses sight or hold of the main story, which is supposed to be about this, like, there's an incoming disaster in the future, and we're trying to prevent it. And each of the like arcs have some connection to it. I don't know if all of them do. I think most of them generally have some connection to that. But what was most interesting to me about the show in the beginning was the presence of this robot from the future, voiced by Jun Fukuyama, and like the conflict that was shown very briefly between him and Vivy, because like it's not as simple as just preventing bad things happening, thereby saving the future. At one point, they had to let something bad happen in order to arrive at the future that they wanted to be. But that was like kind of like a cold shower, because it just skipped to that point, and it was just one scene, and it's never like brought up or relevant again. And it's not like
there was a very
that kind of
yeah,
antagonistic relationship between those two characters ever happens again. They kind of just become like best friends, and he's like her little mascot, flying around and being like her man in the chair, to borrow words from Spider-Man Homecoming. And then in the end, they kind of have this like cute friendship moment where it's like, oh, they care about each other, and they used to be so bickery.
What really annoyed me about Vivy, the character is, for one, she's really one note and barely carries the show on her back, because she's like the only consistent link we have, because every other side character disappears after 2 episodes. And she constantly repeats her mission, I have to sing, and it gets so repetitive and annoying because it doesn't really conclude in a satisfying character arc or anything. It's just kind of a gimmick, and it's annoying.
I mean, my mission is to make everyone happy with my singing. And in the final couple episodes, they repeat that line maybe like 5 times, and it's like this big emotional payoff, I guess, or it's supposed to be, because it's like, oh, that's what was set up in the beginning, and now it's like being brought back. You know, it's just like at the beginning of the show, you can tell like how far we've gone. But I never liked that element much, and I'm kind of tired of these like musically themed
Same.
/ idol themed sci-fi shows and stuff. Like it just didn't have much influence over me.
I thought the themes were half-baked, the world building was really secondary, which I don't like in a sci-fi at all. And the ending felt really flat because I guess I just spoil the ending real quick. Changing the timeline didn't help at all, and it still happened, and then she went back in time again to do it. So that was kind of an okay moment. And then the show ends with the conflict solved, but I haven't really learned anything.
Yeah, I think the reason that it didn't work the first time was because she was inexplicably very hesitant. They were like, if you want to stop the apocalypse, all you need to do is sing. And then she just doesn't. And then she's like, I couldn't sing.
Yeah, I remember.
For some reason, I couldn't sing. And it's like, the reasoning behind it was just very unsatisfying to me. Like, I didn't buy into it.
You just made me remember why I hated the ending. Because it's just... timeline didn't work because in that one moment she just couldn't sing, and there's literally not a single functional reason why she wouldn't be, because she's a robot.
Yeah, that's why she goes back in time, and then she does it the next time. So it kind of puts into question, like, what was even the point of that whole that whole loop around?
The loop around didn't even do anything. Like, I don't understand. I guess what I liked is just the robots killing the humans brutally. I think that's enjoyable to watch, but everything else in the show was just kind of boring. And the ending has like this, what do you even call them? Plot hurdle? I don't know. Unnecessary plot hurdle. I think it was just okay. It wasn't terrible, but it was also not good. That's why the high score confuses me.
It was nothing particularly special.
Yeah.
It's very reminiscent of many other shows, Guilty Crown, Violet Evergarden, Plastic
Nier
Memories,
Automata.
ReZero, Nier Automata. All these things. So it didn't really blow me away in any particular.
And I was really
category.
tired of this main character archetype at this point.
Let's
one
move
more
on.
One more thing. I hated the hair. They make this point that Vivy is really beautiful, but she has squirrel-like hair the entire time. She never really styles it. It looks stupid as hell, and it really took me out every time. Like, if your character's pretty,
all right,
make them
moving
pretty.
on.
Okay, but I had to say this. Yeah.
It's not that important.
It's not that important.
The next show is NOMAD, or otherwise known as Megalo Box Season 2. Megalo Box is a personal favorite of mine, and this is one of the rare areas where me and F differ and don't really agree.
I don't have any particularly strong feelings towards Megalo Box.
I think Megalo Box is really, quite a man's show. When I first watched season 1, it seemed like Yuri on Ice is also one of my favorites. And while like Yuri on Ice is very androgynous and explores femininity within male characters, I felt like Megalo Box kind of took like a very soulful and introspective look into like some more masculine archetypes. Like Joe himself is inspired by Ashita Joe, the original Joe Yabuki, who like for most of his series is very much like a toxic macho type, very loud, very aggressive, always angry. While Joe in Megalo Box is like a fairly sad character, and he goes through a lot, especially in season 2, which starts right off with like him having reached his peak at the end of season 1, and then he like fell down into an abyss of drugs and depression, and he's lifted up by finding this man called Chief, and like becoming his second. Instead of becoming a boxer himself, he learns to be on the sidelines and to help, which I think is a very interesting way to take his character. And I just thought it had a lot of interesting new developments for Joe, and new interesting characters to complement them.
I thought the character drama was a little better than season 1. But just like season 1, the boxing is like not interesting to watch for me at all. It doesn't really engage me. It's not really an adrenaline pumped, I guess. And I really like the soundtrack, but I don't think it's appropriate, or like almost never is appropriate to the scenes it's playing. So I'm just kind of watching it. And then it's also like this 480p low-res style that kind of confuses my eyes, but I don't mind it that much. So just also kind of watching it in a confused state where I'm kind of just not engaged with anything that's going on.
I disagree completely with the soundtrack placement, because and including in the boxing scenes where like the boxing scenes become these like big emotional payoffs, such as when Joe is fighting with Liu. That's also when the boxing is like animated the best. But like it's like really slow and like punctuates the characters' like struggle and achievements throughout the matches or throughout the battles.
The soundtrack is slow, or the punching?
The punching is slow.
Oh yeah, but I don't disagree.
It uses a lot of slow motion, a lot of close-ups, a lot of just like raw weight to it, which comes with them punching with big heavy machinery instead of just normal boxing.
I just didn't feel the punch had the strength in it should have had. I think season 1 at the start had that, and it kind of lost it along the way for some reason. This one just never had it from the start.
Well, I think NOMAD is the best show of the spring 2021 season. Easily.
I think it's above average from the other stuff that was very mid. But I didn't really enjoy it. But happy right. For you.
Then we don't have to talk about it anymore.
So sad. Okay, moving on. Now we can shoot out something.
86. The very highly praised, highly anticipated light novel adaptation.
86, more like could have been an 8, but more like a 6. Just kidding, I gave the shit a 4. It sucks. It sucks, I hate it. I hate everything about it. I hate everything it stands for. It sucks.
We didn't really like it right from episode 1.
No. I think episode 1 was okay.
And then I didn't like it right from episode 1.
Are you liar? You were okay with it?
No.
What did... Okay,
and I wrote like a whole thread about the first minute of episode 1 that was like 20 tweets long. Yes.
Oh. Well, yeah. But here's the thing. I didn't like the first... I hated the first half of episode 1. I liked the second half. And that was kind of thing, the first half of the show, and then after, just hated the entire episode every time we watched it. I mean, strong dislike to / indifference. Not indifferent. Well, I'm actually really bothered by everything.
Just get on to what you don't like about it.
Well, the world building. The first few minutes of the show, as you already were about to say, is just the military lazing around, and this is the entire excuse why Lena of 16, is she 16, 17? I don't know how old she is a high-ranked military officer. A major that's leading a significant military squad in the, what is the very front line called? Front line?
The front lines.
I'm already saying it, the front lines. So very important, because everyone in the military is a lazy bum. And apparently that's a reasoning. Why is it that way? We don't know. Who we are fighting? We don't know.
There's a lot of context missing from what you're saying.
Okay, so like, then elaborate.
86 takes place in a world that is very driven by discrimination and...
But I wanted to get into
I was going to say racial hatred, but it's not really it's not really explained whether it's racial or whether it's like something else. All we know is that the people in the privileged group have white hair and the others don't. But otherwise, there's no like explanation. There's no elaboration or reasoning or anything. But very comically, everyone in the privileged class just like refers to the 86, which are the soldiers who are considered not human. They just call them pigs because they don't have white hair. And that's why it's weird when the main character, who not only is very young and has a very high rank, but is like openly and doesn't even try to hide the fact that she's like sympathetic towards the people that they oppress and discriminate against. And she even like tries to help them work against the system that they're part of. But no one really cares, even when she like walks up on a podium and like calls out everyone in the military for being racist or prejudiced, and how their entire system is corrupt and
you're
evil.
already running a mile here. I was still like just a literal military system here.
Yeah, but you were just talking about like a random specific point without like laying out the foundation.
What do you mean? It's the first minute of the show. You're already at episode 2.
No.
Yes.
The first minute of the show is the spider mechas running across the battlefield, and
okay, don't have to
the operator like screaming at them, calling them pigs, and saying how they can just go out and die on the front lines.
Right, it did that very typical first 2-minute action scene meme. I was talking about the scene after, I guess. Yeah. And what really bothers me, everything is kind of interconnected, so what you said wasn't wrong, obviously. But the military, this state, is just fighting the Legion, which, spoiler, we later find out steals brains from the battlefield to operate the machinery. And all we know that machinery looks way more advanced, so we are fighting aliens? Maybe.
Yes, that's what it seems like.
That's not confirmed?
It's well, it's not nameless, but it's a faceless group of aliens that just are attacking for reasons, and therefore they need to set up this this segregated system where they sacrifice the lives of anyone who isn't part of the dominant race as livestock. And
so yeah, as you can tell, you have a lot going on in this show. It's kind of a mess, because on one hand you have like this very loose state with a military system, which on paper makes no sense, because again, why is a teenager a major, blah blah blah. Why is everyone lazy if they're literally in the middle of a war against literal maybe aliens? We don't even know if we're in space. Are we on Earth? Are we sure about that? We don't know. But we have a segregated system where they sacrifice people they don't like against this alien race.
Just anyone.
Which they know they will stop in 7 years for something. I'm saying a number, I'm sorry if I'm wrong. In a specific amount of years, because then all the brains will die out, they know this. And later we also find out the 86 actually have telepathic abilities. So it always already... and then someone,
only the protagonist.
No, others too. The friend of Lena, the white-haired scientistic friend, she had a code. She had a science code. She explained a bit of backstory that the neighbors had, that the 86 had like telepathic abilities, and they made that a technology, and that's the technology Lena talks to the 86 with. That's a thing.
Yes.
It's a thing we have in the show. So it kind of goes
they have like a technology so they can communicate telepathically with each other.
Yeah. So that's a thing. So it's just a lot of things going on that are not really implemented well. It just kind of throws this at you and like, okay, I guess it's a thing.
for some of the things that you've talked about and that I've talked about, there are like some reasons for it. It's mostly just one reason that applies to all of it, which is that Lena's uncle is like a real higher up, and that's why she can like strut around and be like openly rebellious against the system, even though she's a high-ranking military member, and no one cares because her uncle, quote unquote, covers it up, and he just like allows her because they're related, and that's also why she's such a high rank at such a young age, because her uncle is even higher ranked. But also she just is like a prodigy. She just is like a genius, and she's the most moral and virtuous person, and the only one who sees the flaws of the system. And she really meets little to no resistance in her pursuit of justice. The only resistance she meets, which is like one of the only interesting parts about the show, is when the 86 themselves like call her out for being kind of like a performative ally.
Yeah.
Like she claims to want to get to know them and to help them and everything, but like she isn't really doing it in the right way. She isn't like really treating them as equals.
Lena is a very perfect Mercy White Knight, and even though the show criticizes her now and then, she just never stops being one. She has like this moment of realization, but
her one flaw in the scene that I was talking about where she was getting criticized by the 86 is that she wasn't actively doing enough to help them. And then after she's called out, she immediately like solves that flaw and becomes a true Mary Sue. Who is perfect and virtuous and beautiful and everything all the time. And it's just very annoying to see, especially because like she's this kind of a female archetype where she's always crying out of sympathy for wrongdoing.
Yeah.
Like every time something bad happens, she breaks down crying because she's just such a kind and empathetic person that like anytime something bad happens, she just can't take it, you know.
That's why
that shit's just so annoying.
Lena's so confusing because again, she's a major, and literally everything. I'm sorry, I have to use this, but triggers her. Like she has PTSD. At one point, when she heard like the voices that Shin hears, I understand it, but she gets like triggered under everything and starts crying, and then it goes shaky cam and all that bullshit, and she starts crying at everything to show poor sympathy, and I'm just like, how the fuck am I supposed to take this seriously? I'm like offended by how emotional she gets every time. Like, it's not just that she's a perfect Mary Sue, and she kinda never changes. Even she's criticized, she just becomes more Mary Sue-ish. If she's so emotional all the time, how am I supposed to engage with this character?
Yeah, the one flaw that we talked about, which was her not doing enough, was like it culminates in this line where it's like, you never even asked us about our names, and like that's a true aspect of her character. Like she asked about the dog's name but not their name, which is like a very telling moment.
That seems okay.
But then immediately after that, it's resolved by like her getting them all on like a group call and like going one by one, like, oh, what is your name? Oh, that's such a beautiful name. Ah, I'm so glad to know you. And then it's fixed, you know, and it's just very cheesy, very simplistic, I think.
All the characters are very cliche, cheesy, and the most anime-ism-ish character archetypes.
And what I was going to say before is that like while Lena is always like traumatized and like having these kind of panic attacks over what's happening to the other characters, the actual characters who are fighting in the war and who are being like oppressed and thrown away like fodder. They never like go through any of that trauma. Like Shin has a bit of trauma, but that's because of like his brother, him having like an especially tragic past, even though all of them really share a tragic present.
Yeah, that's the part that got me really offended, because I don't understand how this character that sits on the other side of Earth, basically, and just hears some things, gets a very strong PTSD reaction. Like, it's really strong. It's not a joke. Every single time she's quote unquote doing a job on the battlefield, while the characters are literally on the battlefield, they can hear her, right? Like crying in her headset. I would get fucking offended as a soldier. Like, I'm literally dying out here and you having a PTSD for me. What is wrong with you?
Yeah, it's like she's taking all of the emotion of the show and just like...
She's like an empath.
She's like absorbing all of the emotion in the show just so that like we, the audience, can experience it through her. And because she like takes all the emotion and trauma herself, then all of these like actual soldiers who really should be having these emotional moments can just remain like cool and awesome and like have a smile on even in the face of certain death, you know, and be like, whatever happens, we're gonna get out of this alive. Yeah, we're gonna go and live and go to the beach together again, because we never got to do that because we are oppressed. And it's this very like happy-go-lucky, like, you know, even though the world is cruel, you know, we still make the best of it kind of thing.
It's like really basic sympathy fishing. I don't want to call it that, but if you have characters that just need to die, they're just fodder. We all know they're fodder. You just make these really ha hee hee, we're all laughing scenes, and that's supposed to make you feel for them. And no, it doesn't work like that. You have to be a little more dimensional than that.
Yeah, there's no dimension to like any of the side characters in the 86. It's only really Shin. So like the whole point being that like Lena needs to get to know them and see them as like full humans in the same right as she is. But they're not really. They're very fucking two-dimensional anime archetypes. And there's these scenes with the 86 as groups, like kind of sitting together and like someone will just like do a little lame joke and then everyone will like burst out laughing like, we're so happy, you know, when we're not at war. Because when we're at war, then it's serious. But when we're not, we're all such good friends and have fun.
The best way to just avoid this kind of thing is just to not overperform. Just have the characters actually act the way people act, and I will buy it. But if they overperform and I'm just like looking at my screen being like, this is very anime, it just kind of takes me out.
Yeah, it's very unrealistic. All the characters feel like caricatures or tropes. And it was really just quite annoying to see it act like it had so much depth and like it was doing justice to these very serious themes it was really quite shallow.
There was this post-credit scene with this record robot and what he actually did. They had a round who was like recording everything, and he was flashbacking every interaction. It actually cared more for the robot exploding by the end of that scene than I did any of the characters he was recording. And like, just like in the recordings, we have this redhead girl who's like has a crush on Shin, and she's like the most cliche has a crush on the MC character ever. That's her character. That's a thing. And we have the long-haired, white-haired, silver-haired, whatever the fuck, beauty, and the bro, all that stuff.
Yeah, the bro with the spiky hair and everything.
And they're just doing quirky shit in these flashbacks. They're like, aha, interesting. They all die.
They all have very like basic, quirky personalities and nothing else going for them. And then there's like Shin himself, who is like the MC, and he is pretty much a blank slate. Like, he's like the cool guy who doesn't talk very much, and he's got like a special ability and like a tragic past. And if you've seen All Noah Zero, he's basically Inaho from All Noah Zero. And when his character finally like is more focused on in the second half, and you like learn about his past and stuff, it's like such a silly scene that like really like ruined any investment I had in his character. It was like the scene where,
oh goodness,
well, to give some context beforehand, his brother is one of the brains that have been taken over by the aliens, and he's like one of the captains for the alien army. Like, he's like he's above the normal grunts. He's like a superior alien robot. And he's shown to us in this flashback with Shin, where he like almost kills Shin, and I think that's the reason why he has that like special ability, is because he was like he was dead for a moment, and therefore he can hear the voices of the dead, you know.
He got suffocated to almost death, then had a death experience and came back to life, and that's how he got it.
It's very, very stupid idea, but in the scene, basically,
it's so silly.
There's very little like reason or context given for why this happened, but it's just like him and his brother in a room, and then he's just like, hey brother, what's going on? Hey, like not really doing anything in particular, and then his brother just like does an edgy face and then grabs him by the neck and is like, this is all your fault.
This show has a lot of the A1 Pictures edgy face that I haven't seen since, and now buckle up, SAO, and I haven't missed it at all.
Yeah, that face where like they grit their teeth and snare their nose and eyebrows, and they had got like really big open eyes with like very small pupils.
No, not both eyes, just one eye really big, the other one a little tinier.
Yeah.
And the iris is like one really big, the other one is really tiny. Yeah, and like Shin's brother was like that. They were like these electronic flashes where his face was visible. He was just screaming Shin's name with this edgy face, and I'm like, I'm supposed to take this seriously. I can't, because when I see an A1 edgy face, I cannot take it seriously. And
that's a good way to put the show as a whole. It's very hard to take seriously because it feels like a young adult story, you know, like if you watch like or read like The Maze Runner or like Divergent, you know, these like very tweenish.
It's insult to Maze Runner. I watched that movie. It's not that bad.
Kind of dystopia / sci-fi stories and stuff. It's a lot like that, only like the anime equivalent.
One thing I want to add, I forgot immediately after I said that. There are a lot of cake scenes. Every episode, there's one. There's a eat cake and talk about shit with Lena and her privileged other friend, and I just can't. It's so A1 Pictures. It's actually not even funny. I haven't seen such an A1. Actually, the show is from 2014. That's what it feels like. But it's not. It's 2021.
Nearly every episode has a scene where Lena and her friend sit down and eat cake or some other dessert and talk about whatever, you know. But it's like a very silly kind of setup for a scene. Yeah, it's like kind of cute and lighthearted, but they're also like suddenly gonna switch to like very serious topics. Like one time when their conversation leads them to talk about the discrimination of the 86, and they're eating pudding, and then they like kind of get into an argument, and her friend is like, "There's nothing we can do. They don't have cake. They don't have pudding over there." It's like, what is happening? Like, it's trying to make this point about how the 86 don't have the same like luxuries and you know, access to desserts, to things that like the privileged enjoy, but it's just delivered in such comical, stupid dialogue that it's very impossible to take seriously.
The only thing that was kind of okay is when they had that scene for the first time, that they were talking about if this was processed or self-made. That was the only kind of world building this kind of scene was providing, and after that, it was just Moe. Lena made a cute face. She was cutified. That's something to do throughout the show. She's just this beauty, you know. And she also later has a crush on Shin and like talks on him with him on the voice chat. And then after she hangs up, she like flushes like a maid, and I'm like, I don't care. I don't care for you. Also because she kind of just developed this crush because of his brother that she talked to before. There's a whole lot going on. As a child, when she was a child.
We've compared it to like a few different series, but the comparison that just came to my mind is Code Geass Akito the Exiled, which is the series of movies that's like a offshoot of the original Code Geass, and it's basically the same. Like they have spider-shaped mechs, and one of the main characters is this like light-haired, kind of princess-like character who is the leader of a military squadron, and the military squadron is made up of people from like a subservient race, like an oppressed group of people who are like used as like kamikazes to like easily be disposed of. It's literally Akito the Exiled. It's the same show, or the same plot.
Speaking of that, the action scenes were really bad in this show.
They are very bad.
The mechs are not very recognizable from the backgrounds. All I know is the Legion ones look way shinier, and the action direction is just incomprehensible. And as someone who actually enjoys mech fights, it was just not entertaining. It's just filler.
Yeah. The CGI is weak. The design work is not very good. Not just on the mechs, but like in general too. Like the the way the world is designed, and you know, like the most important part, which is the separation between classes. As we've said, all there is to go on is the fact that like the Alba have white hair and blue eyes, while everyone else is just like all different colors. You know, they have red hair or brown hair or blonde hair, or anyone normal who is not like this kind of like angelic anime character is like the 86.
But apparently there's a lot of context the anime has cut out from the novel, which I will believe to some degree. But why is it then that if it's such a bad adaptation of the source material, and I know the cake scenes are filler because people have told me so, why is it still so well regarded as a good adaptation when literally sucks?
Every fan of the novel I've seen has said like, this is like a perfect adaptation. This is like possibly the greatest adaptation ever given to a light novel. And you know, that just makes me think the light novels won't be that much better.
Only God will know. Yeah. By the end, there was also this scene of the brother in a knight armor that just took me out.
Yeah.
That was just what the hell was the point of that? Like the entire conflict between his brother is so comical and badly narrated. It's just not good. It's just not good.
The entire symbology of the show is very stupid. Like, there's that scene you mentioned where he's like in the knight's armor, but there's also like the whole motif of pigs, where they teach the Alba people, they teach them about the 86, and it's like a book with like a pig in it, because they call them pigs because they're subhuman, you know. So like,
How do you get it?
It's like very heavy-handed and just not very believable to me. Like, you know, I know that like in isolation, out of context, you know, a lot of these things have been in real life have happened. You know, like the dehumanization of different types of people. But it's like a very cartoonish anime style take on it in this show.
Yeah, it's not the paper. It's not the paper premise, blah blah, that's the problem. It's the execution entirely.
It feels very dumbed down to appeal to, like, teenagers, you know?
To very young teenagers, not like 17, but like 13.
Very young teenagers. And to just, like, gain the novelty of discussing these themes to begin with, because these are not themes that are, like, discussed that often in anime. And you know, like, if you criticize something that is about racism and discrimination and everything like that, then, you know, like, you inherently are fighting an uphill battle, because anything that tries to approach these ideas is usually very well regarded for that reason.
I'm pretty sure Gundam has the same themes, but better. Some Gundam will surely have it, you know. In fact, doesn't Gundam Iron for Orphans have it?
Iron-Blooded Orphans does have it, yes.
Exactly. Just watch that. And I don't even like that show that much.
And Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans has a light-haired princess-like character who is inducted into this ragtag group of, like, disposable military orphans. It's again very similar. You know, it's not a very unique story by any means. The way it does it is, like, in the most stereotypical anime fashion. And, you know, if you were jaded to, like, corny anime tropes and dialogue and ways of presenting, then 86 is not a show that will appeal to you.
If you jaded like me and have seen every A1 show produced between 2010 and 2017, then you will be very jaded with this. Yeah.
I think I've said all that I need to say.
I think I've said everything. I hated it. I gave it a 4.
I hated it too.
I don't like it. I will not watch more. Continue. Shadow's House. I have sadly, like, barely an opinion on this.
We just zoned out when we were watching it the second half.
Well, because I don't even know what happened. So Shadow's House has the same story structure as Neverland. So if that's your thing...
The Promised Neverland.
Yeah, The Promised Neverland. I'm not sure if people know when I say Neverland, I mean that, but that. So if you like that, read the manga instead, because all my friends who read the manga said, this sucks. And I did like it for just being a show with a cute anime girl and another cute anime girl which has barely any face. And I like the suit? How do I say this? Suit stuff?
Suit, yeah.
Like the shadows are producing soot and has to be clean, all that stuff. And
Soot. Yeah.
English is weird. But later it just goes down with having this antagonist and it tries to make the they say they're adults, but clearly they're humans, fail these tests of becoming the Shadow's caretaker, basically. One actually dies. That one Shadow, they can die. Later we find out, by the way, spoilers, that the Shadows actually just tiny soot things that take the shapes of the humans beforehand and then later combine / consume the human themselves to become the human. So it's
basically
kind of like
a reversal of the original setup, where it's like we thought that these human-looking characters were dolls created in the image of these shadows, but it's really the shadows that, like, are imitations of them who are actually humans and not dolls.
And later down the line, there's just brainwashing going on, and at the very end, they just brainwashed again, and it just feels like you're at the start of the show. So it kind of feels like this entire second half didn't matter. And also derived from the original manga, so it was just confusing to watch. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. So I don't really have an opinion on the show, besides I thought it looked pretty, but it was really confusing. and it didn't really dive into anything after a certain point. It just, this is the info I have, and that's it. Maybe I read the manga, but I don't know.
It's like, it's a cool concept with very bland execution.
Yeah, it's just kind of boring to watch. It skipped arcs, that makes sense why it was confusing. Yeah, skip it. It's not worth it. Cloverworks has just fucking up the adaptations lately, so Cloverworks is dead to me and my friends. Yeah, moving on. Bakuten. I gave it a 5, by the way.
What did I give it?
I think a 5 too.
I gave it a 6, but I guess you lowered your score because we gave it a 6 when we first.
No, I always had it a 5. By the last episode I gave it a 5. At the very start, I hated it like
this was a show that I was basically forced to watch with Ash because she loved the visuals, the animation, and the cute boys. And that's basically the kind of show that this is. You know, it's a sports show about gymnastics, with a lot of cute boys, all by like famous voice actors, all with like different hair colors and different personality types, and they just do gymnastics. That's all it is.
It ends up being very gimmicky with very great visuals. And they just keep saying soaring, we need to soar. It's just really corny and embarrassing to watch. The MVC's voice, who's also the voice actor of the Ballroom MC, who actually okay?
We need to do backflips.
He was annoying. He was super annoying to listen to. I still respect the effort.
Just the sports anime sauce, you know, like if you like all the sports anime conventions and tropes, like just done in like a very normal and decent way, then this is the show for you. But if you've like seen shows like Haikyuu or whatever sports show is your favorite, it's not gonna really put a dent in your favorites ever.
The problem with like Bakuten and shows that are similar is that they really try to hammer home their theme by over saying it, like soaring constantly. And like Haikyuu has the flying motive, but it is gentle with it. It says it a lot, but it's not so forceful and not so corny and not so annoying.
Yeah, every sports series has something like this related to like what the actual activity is, and just like making a big metaphor out of it.
That's fine.
So like, because both Haikyuu, which is about volleyball, and this, which is about gymnastics, both involve jumping, therefore they both are like, I want to fly, you know, because jumping equals flying. That's how it always is.
I don't know why I gave the show a strong 6. I think I was just impressed by the visuals, but it's more like a light 6.
You just said you gave it a 5.
No, I was talking about Shadow's House.
I was talking about Bakuten.
Okay, no, I added again. Shadow's House is a 5 because it sucked by then. But Bakuten is a light 6. I had a strong 6 before. But now I'm like, wait, no. Moving on, MHA. Now I can start talking.
My Hero Academia Season 5.
Disclaimer for anyone who for some reason hasn't watched or listened to our prior episodes. We love MHA. It's like in our top 10 manga. We both have it at a 10. We love the 3 other seasons. We are mild on the 4th one, but we give season 1 to 3 an 8 out of 10 each. 4th one we get a gentle 7. I had a lot of problems with it, but we hate this one.
The MHA anime is dead to me. It is officially dead because in this 5th season, I no longer like recognize any of the soul, to be like really vague about it. Any of the like stylistic flair or understanding of the material that I like saw in the original 3 seasons of the show. I just do not think that this director really has a grasp on the style that the show had built for itself in the first 3 seasons, and it just seems kind of like a pale imitation of what came before, and is inferior to the manga in every way.
Yeah, I agree entirely. It's just kind of entire landscape of MHA just kind of died out. It's just a skeleton at this point. Like back in the day, everyone loved MHA, and now everyone is like, MHA, and I can't really blame them because the anime sucks now.
The reputation of the series is like in the dirt now because of the anime. Like
it's literally a 7.5.
Generally, when I watch like YouTubers like RTTV, for example, who like I watched them react to all the first 3 seasons, and they were like so hyped, so invested, and then that was like fading away in season 4, and now in season 5 they've even like stopped reacting to it. They basically dropped it just because it's like so lame and so kiddie and childish, and just without any real weight to it. Very slow, fucking a dozen flashbacks every episode, fucking dragging it out. It has like moments of cool animation, and like the character models look consistent, but there's like no real style to it. It's very safe.
The problem with MHA's anime adaptation, and this is not just the TV show but the movies, is that for some reason the producers, I'll blame them, not Bones directly, have a very safe and gimmicky and boring interpretation of the source material. So every time there's filler, which in this season is a lot, it's the most flat interpretation of every character. Every time you watch a filler episode / movie of MJ, you get the most one-dimensional, boring version of the character that does not actually exist in the original source material. They're way deeper in the source material, but in the adaptations, they're always flat. Somehow. I don't know how you fuck that up. But when you watch a filler episode of MJ, it's like, oh, Ida does a lot of hand movements, Ochako's cute, Deku starts flushing and stammering a lot, which he doesn't really do much ever. Like his stuttering gimmick happens 8 times in the entire manga. It's not a thing.
Blushing.
Flushing
is what you do in the bathroom.
But the emote on Discord says flushed. What do you mean? Blushing, yeah. Whatever the expression is.
Yeah, visually, like this season has been called as the season has been called like the best it's ever been visually.
Lies.
Because there was like a good amount of like very solid cuts in the first arc, like maybe like one per episode or 2 per episode, something like that. But in general, it's riddled with fucking stills, sliding movements, camera pans, just like fade outs, very fucking stilted, and like every time it cuts to like the close-up of a character's face, like yeah, they look kind of like replicas of the manga, but they look like moving manga characters. They don't look like they're really like in the anime or moving. Like even Endeavor has become a CG model. Like he's hand drawn in every close up, but every time he's like actually moving, he's CG.
I actually haven't noticed that, to be honest. I'm glad I haven't.
He is.
Maybe I'm just so disappointed that I don't notice these things anymore. I drawn them out. But yeah, like the manga has really good comedic timing. The anime doesn't. The manga has really good pacing. The anime doesn't. The OST has completely ruined the experience over time. The one sounds like a truck commercial. Literally. The character art is like I think Bakugo looks fine, but every time Deku is on screen, I'm like, who is this character? This is not the character I have in my top 20. He looks completely different. For some reason, they always manage to draw Deku wrong. His hair is too short in the front, his face is too big, his eyes are too big. Something is wrong. Every single line on his face is wrong. And I hate that because Deku is like one of my favorites ever. So when he's badly drawn, which is 80% of the time, I'm just like, cringe, no.
And people will say we're just Umakoshi stans, but like his Umakoshi's character designs were just better.
He just the drew previous them character like designs were better. Manga. What I don't like Umakoshi. I like Horikoshi. I like Horikoshi's interpretation of these characters and his art. I don't like anyone else. I don't like the fanon. I don't like the anime fanon, which basically is the fanon. I like the canon, okay? And they're also trying to, like, I guess, censor the anime now because they're now pushing MVA, which is the best arc in the manga, in like 3 to 5 episodes. Wow. Thank you. I'm so happy.
It's just so sad that a show that, like, when the first 3 seasons were airing was like something I watched every week and like it would bring me to tears and I was so emotional, and like I've rewatched it many times since and still loved it that much, and now I just feel absolutely nothing for it except boredom and petty annoyance, and it reflects in like the larger reaction to the show too, because like even after like a significant score drop of the second season is still in the top 300 on Mal, while this season is not even in the top 1,000. It's like in the top 1,500 on Mal.
Amazing.
Which is an incredible drop. Like it went from like being a consistent above an 8 to now being like 7.5, and that doesn't happen, you know. Like if you look at any other series like Gintama, for example, with each entry the scores just get better because the people who watch them are the longtime fans, or like the biggest fans are the ones who watch 5 seasons of something. But now the people who have watched 5 seasons of this just don't like it nearly as much as they used to, and I am one of those people.
Yep. I'm not having fun.
Is there anything else?
I don't wish there be anything else.
I don't even wish for another season.
Yeah. I'm just gonna drop it at this point.
The MHA anime can just stop.
We can stop, yeah.
I might not even watch
actually
the next
have
one.
something to add. For me, the MHA anime just represents capitalistic greed now, because if you look at the Blu-ray sales of the anime, they are dog shit. But if you look at the sales for the movies, they're amazing. They're literally millions. So there goes the money.
Yeah, it doesn't make the studio any money to adapt the manga.
They just adapt the TV show
if they make movies
so they can make
own.
movies that actually makes money. And just have something going on for people that are still watching the anime for some reason. Everyone should move to the manga at this point. Which sucks. Yeah. People always hate MHA. Oh, the next big show that gets like a really great adaptation. Haha, now we laugh at each other because it sucks and the visuals are not on par at all. And not just because of character design changes, which could have all worked, but they don't, because the manpower is not there, because it's somewhere else where the money is. So yeah, great. I don't blame Bones / the animators, but I blame the producers. Yeah, now I'm done. I'm sorry.
Next show, SSSS.Dynazenon.
Well, it's the next show for you. The next show for me would have been Tenshura Nikki, which you haven't completed. I'm just gonna make
you want to talk about that
2 sentences, yeah? Short. It's just a side story of Tenshura It was nothing special. It looked nice. It was kind of boring. I gave it a flat 5. That's it. Now we can talk about Dynazenon.
Dynazenon is the latest original Trigger production by director Akira Amemiya in the SSSS series.
Why you like a nerder? Nerder voice.
This was one of the highlights of the season because the two of us are famously very big fans of Akira Amemiya and of SSSS Gridman. And this scratched that itch very much for me. It felt like I was back in 2019.
Yep. I love Dynazenon and love Akira Amemiya's direction, but I didn't like it as much as Gridman.
Yes. It's hard to pinpoint exactly what it is that doesn't make it as compelling as Gridman, but I think it's Akane Shinjo. Because if you look at the cast of the two series, Dynazenon's overall cast is like much more fun and memorable
and rounded
than Gridman's, but none of the characters are anywhere near as good as Akane was in Gridman. And she's like the true main character of that show.
I think, yeah, the main cast here is very solid. I love all of them. But I think the antagonist group is very average.
They're okay.
They're okay. They make it. Meanwhile,
each of them get like just barely enough depth to their characters so that each of the protagonists can fight them and like there's kind of something happening other than just punching each other, you know?
Yeah, they had like very basic motivations and some don't even have one really. The redhead guy, as example. But overall, Dynazenon has really strong themes and character writing and tone. Just tone in general. I think both shows have very strong tone that you can just get swayed by and have a great time.
The audio-visual quality, the production value is phenomenal. Like, the artwork and the character designs consistently look gorgeous. I love Shirasagi's soundtrack. It's just very nice on the eyes. Unlike My Hero Academia, which we were just talking about. But like I could look at Dynazenon every week for the rest of my life, probably. Because it's just a nice experience to sit and watch it.
Yeah. Even Dynazenon is in like every category better than Gridman minus the antagonists, which is funny, but yeah.
No.
I mean,
because Gridman is better with the themes.
Actually,
and,
yeah,
like,
I think
the mystery. Yeah.
Yeah, let me finish. But like there's just a noticeable soundtrack. I wouldn't say better, just more noticeable. A more rounded cast managed in the group. And the tone is different, simply. But Gridman has like a stronger theme, which is more present, and the tone is different but stronger as well. Yeah, direction is
I disagree.
great in both. What do you mean? How do you disagree?
The tone is not stronger than Gridman's.
Equal?
It's not. No, Gridman's tone was stronger.
That's what I said. I'm talking about Gridman right now.
Okay. Then I agree.
Should I do a rundown again? Okay.
No, it's fine.
Well,
I was going to say
I sure you got
Dynazenon prioritized consistency over peaks.
I think Gridman is pretty consistent if you bother staying awake, which some people don't for some reason. Gridman has like this kind of bad reputation of, oh my god, it's so boring. And what annoys me now is people will be like, oh, Gridman boring, now we just watch Dynazenon instead. I'm like, no, stop. Why are you like that? Because the cast here is more entertaining, but the reason is because the Gridman cast has a reason for being the way they are. That's why you should watch it to the end.
I think Akira Amemiya is one of the most interesting creative voices in the original anime scene working right now, and I think he has the potential to make a masterpiece.
Yes.
And let's hope that he actually does do that, because there's going to be another show in this series to complete the trilogy of Gridman X Dynazenon.
Yeah.
So I'm very much looking forward to that. This definitely felt like more of a setting up than Gridman did. Gridman was more complete on its own.
Yeah. That's why I'm like, even though maybe I'm sounding harsh, I'm not sure, but I love it. I love the show. I love the episode, but it did feel like a prologue to something. Meanwhile, Gridman, it was whole. I prefer wholeness. But it's cool. I gave it a decent to strong 8.
Yes.
He agrees. Okay, moving on. Hige Soru, or also way too long title I will not bother pronouncing. This was a show. No, okay, I'm gonna say I had positive feelings going in because I'm not that judgmental. Haha. And because I read the manga before. And it had this concept where it's basically protect a child from its abusive household and what it means to not be used by other people to survive. Like, it has this thing going on where this high school girl runs away from home because it's shitty and abusive and stuff happened in the past that traumatized her and stuff. And by going to house, she just kind of gets used by these men. And instead of become this social commentary on how shitty men are in that society and abuse, it just kind of mishandles everything in a disappointing way.
Yeah. The the concept is as you have told. And so the female protagonist, who is like the young teenage girl who is very vulnerable and has been through a lot, and she's now being protected by this guardian for the first time. And throughout the show, there are like some traumatic events that happen. Like, there's this one guy who actually tries to rape her, and it's really not handled in a satisfying or sufficient way, because her guardian, who is like taking care of her to make sure that would never happen again, like he walks in and he kind of just stands there for a minute, and I think he even asks her like did you agree to this? Did you agree? Give him consent? And only then is he like, please leave my home. And like, he doesn't like punch him, he doesn't do anything, he doesn't like curse him out, he's just like calmly talking to him and just like, don't come back here again. It's like, the guy is a rapist. He just tried to rape this young girl in your home. Like, aren't you gonna react in like more of a human way?
Yeah, it was very weird. The guy is just lukewarm on everything, but then he's like also, he's supposed to be like highly moral because he's not sleeping with the girl he's housing, but then also at the same time everyone is ridiculing him for housing a teenage girl runaway that is apparently legal. I'm not sure if that's legal in my country. I haven't looked up a law like that. I guess it counts under child kidnapping. But either way, there's like this weird conflict in the show where people ridicule the main character for child kidnappment, I guess. But nobody does anything, I guess, because they know he's not a shitty person, more or less. But there's also this, you should not feel bad for the things that happen to you because it's not your fault. Blah blah. It's kind of not really making a point to where it stands on this moral issue. And it also seems to have been controversial in Japan because of the exact same reason. I, as a Westerner, criticize the show for thinking it's more important to criticize someone that's housing an abused person than actually criticizing the abuse. From my Western standpoint, I don't know how it is over there, but apparently that's a controversial statement.
Yeah, because it all comes back to her abusive mother, and when actually introduced to her, she's immediately viciously evil. Like everything about her is pure toxicity, and this girl who has been abused by her her whole life is just allowed to stay there and just kind of hope that her mom will be better, even though there's no particular reason to believe she would be. They're just kind of you're her mom, so please don't be abusive. And then she doesn't even agree or disagree. She's just get out of my house, and then it acts like everything's fixed. When
not
it's
just
really
that,
not.
but they actually bow down and apologize to the mother. And I was just watching it oh my god, this is so Japanese. Guys.
You don't need to be so polite and meek towards even an abuser of someone you care about.
It's not like I haven't seen anime or drama shows or anything Japanese where people didn't get upset and fought the abuser and actually got angry. So it's really confusing why this show is so vehement on being this bow down and hope for the best Japanese kind of man way. The good Japanese man, who just takes it to do that all the time kind of attitude. It's not anime has no criticisms towards abuse. Sangatsu literally exists. That's also handled how the Japanese culture does it, but also criticizing it. So I'm how can the show not do it? It's clearly a thing. I don't think just because the Japanese, they're that different from us.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
So that show was ass.
Another disappointment.
I tried to defend it. It didn't do it. It didn't pay off. It stabbed me in the back like usual. I don't hate it though. I give it a strong 4. Still negative, not too bad. So moving on, I'm gonna show you also haven't finished. I watched Seijo no Maryoku wa Bannou desu, which is basically Shirayuki but isekai, and she's also a god. Basically. I've recently rewatched the first season of Shirayuki, and I can say it's not that much better than Shirayuki, but still kind of more cliche and boring. And I didn't really like the ending, which just kind of romances the most obvious choice, which is the blonde-haired guy. Great. But it was a very pretty show, and I liked the weekly watch experience until the last quarter, which just kind of became boring. So I decided on a strong 5. Now we can watch about a great show, Bishounen Tanteidan.
Shaft is back.
Shaft is good.
With another Nisio Isin novel adaptation with amazing visuals and very quirky, fun, and witty dialogue. I like this show quite a bit. I like all the characters. I think they have unique and quirky personalities in the good way, not in the each is a generic archetype way, even though they are all supposed to represent a different type of Bishounen, of a pretty boy. There's the delinquent who also cooks and is really sensitive, and then there's the really long-haired graceful student council president as well. it's got some archetypes in there, but like it doesn't feel like it's manipulating me. It feels like it's like winking at me, like, yeah, you get what I'm calling back to here.
Because it's written by Nisu-Isen, and every character he writes is interesting.
He's very self-aware and very smart in how he chooses to spin his stories. Like, he'll take an idea and just go in like this very weird, specific, and often roundabout way to do it, but it always like makes sense and feels satisfying in the end. There's some mysteries in this show that are all pretty weird.
They're weird,
but also interesting.
Decent. It's not his best mystery writing, but it's engaging enough. It's not like carried by its visuals. The characters are just amusing enough, and the mystery writing is just. It's not like something that makes me think about it. Like, I really have to figure this out. I'm just watching it and getting swayed by the mood.
Yeah.
It was very fun every week. I was looking forward to it every week.
It's a show that's easy to get carried along with. Like, it doesn't really need to do anything to like get you to pay attention to a scene, because like it's just inherently interesting, and it makes no damn sense. Compels me though.
It's about aestheticism, so you have to pay attention to aestheticism. Because there's the theme of boyish dreams going on, which is pretty consistent, so that's something you can pay attention to, be mindful of.
Yeah.
Yeah, the visuals go really hard in the last episode. It was amazing. I
love how the title is Pretty Boys Detectives Club, and basically the way that Nisio chose to approach that idea of a story is just to like take all of the words one at a time and make each of them a theme. Like, there's the pretty part, which is about aestheticism, and there's the boys part, which is about like kind of shonen, boyish spirit.
Yes.
There's detective, which is about the mysteries and detective work, and then club, which is about their friendship and all of them being united.
Yep.
And it's just like very Nisu-Isen for him to just take such an analytical approach to a story.
Yeah, and all the designs are bangers. Dojima looks amazing. And I was also the side character.
All the designs are
whose
great.
Design I loved that she was only there for one episode. It looks so good. I hope to make more. I want more. Oh, the opening was the best of the season. We now talk about the openings.
Yes, the opening was great.
Sumika is a mood lifter immediately.
I think that is all I had to say.
Yeah, I get this one. A decent to strong 8. Okay, next one. Koi to yobo ni wa kimochi warui, or koi kumo as I like to call it. This one is controversial because it has an age difference, quote-unquote, couple in it. And people just noped out after the first impression.
This is a interesting thing, or a weird thing about anime, is, it deals a lot with age differences and stuff like this. It's just a fascination, or maybe a fetish to many people there. But I thought like it was a pretty charming and tasteful show in handling it.
Yes.
Like it is a romance between, like a man in his 20s and a high school girl, but like it doesn't go that far with it. It always like keeps certain boundaries, and it feels good-natured. I wasn't like creeped out or uncomfortable with it.
Me neither. It even has a scene where the dad confronts the guy who stole her, by the way. For the fact that he's crushing on a younger girl, and he's like, "What are you doing? I hope you're not creepy," and shit. So it has a lot of tastefulness to it. And I really like the characters and how they interacted. Visually, it's just kind of average, but it's fun. I forgot the voice actor's name. How did I? Toshi?
Toshiyuki
Yeah,
Toyonaga.
Toshi. This is like Toshi's hottest voice performance, and now I have a crush on him. This voice performance made me love
very
him.
sexy.
He sounds so sexy. I love him.
I thought that the comedy was good. The romance was heartwarming.
Yes.
In like the conventional aspects of being a rom-com, I thought it did its job very effectively.
Yeah, for something that's the manga thing is kinda older, but it felt modern. Let's see. The manga is no, it's not. Okay, I guess it's just the art that looked old. The original artist of the manga isn't that great, but it's a 2016 manga. Okay. Yeah, like for people that are still on the fence because of the age difference and stuff, the show ends with them not coming together until she's of age. That's something they literally say in the show. That's cool.
Which is good.
And they both agree to it, and they're okay with it. So yeah, that's how you handle your age difference romance. I had fun. I enjoyed it. I gave it a decent 7.
Yes, same here.
Oh yeah, it's also complete, so that's cool.
Yeah.
Quick one call show done. Next one, and for you the last one.
Last one.
For you,
Yeah.
not for me.
Godzilla Singularity
Which for some reason is shortened to SP. I don't know why.
This was a show that taught me a valuable lesson. To never get overly hyped about something just because it has names that you like in different things.
He's a big Godzilla fan.
Because I saw this, I was like, I like Godzilla. I like Studio Orange and Studio Bones. And I like the character designer, the Blue Exorcist mangaka. I don't want to get her name wrong. It's Kazue something?
I wouldn't know.
Kazue Kato. Yeah.
Good for her.
I like her art. I like how Blue Exorcist looks. And the designs in this are also decent.
I really hate the fact that the glasses girl cannot pour the glasses on properly. It really bothered me the whole time. That's not quirky, you look stupid and you should stop.
It's an anime thing. It's just easier to kind of draw the eyes outside of the...
I've never seen that in anime. He wears his glasses completely normal. Why can't she do that? It always is like on the tip of her nose, falling off. I'm like, can you even see? Anyways, this show was the most boring show I've ever seen. In like a special way, because it has so much narration and science, mumbo jumbo, where my brain just turn off. It was literally the most I've never had to turn my brain off ever until now when I watched this. When they started talking, my brain just entered the 90s style internet ringtone. Every episode. They just keep explaining how Godzilla exists in this whatever the fuck dimension. I don't care. I just want to see the monsters.
It's incredibly nerdy.
It's so boring.
Very, very.
I'm not surprised.
Very
not
niche
many
sci-fi
people love that shit.
With a lot of explanations and a lot of just name dropping all these theoretical concepts and stuff. But not much story to really care about.
I can't even tell if it's well written or not because I don't understand what the fuck they're saying. I'm not sure if it's anime science or related to real science or if Godzilla nerds really understand what they're talking about. I don't. And I'm not embarrassed to admit that. I really was bored and I kind of regret having watched the whole thing just because my friends liked it. I'm sorry, this shit is boring. It was so boring. Orange did a really good job with the monster designs though.
With the monster CGI. It looks fantastic.
Yeah, the post is awful though. What the fuck is that?
This was the show that broke the camel's back for me, and it's the reason why we are not watching anything in this current summer season except for Kobayashi's Maid Dragon.
which is a sequel to a show we already liked.
I think there are many shows that broke the back. I think Vivy was the one that broke it for me in case of never watch something that everyone's hyping up again, which I keep doing, and every time I hate them. Every single time. Great Pretender, that shit sucked. I'm sorry. That show sucks too, and I want to watch the whole thing because everyone was like, oh, it's good. No! And I'm not gonna watch Odd Tux either because I hate all of you. You're lying.
Great Pretender doesn't suck. It blows.
Yeah. That ending was so bad. But yeah, I had not a good time with this season or this show. So
I'm just glad it's summer and
we almost
spring
done
is
now.
ended.
Yeah. I completed Kumo Desu Nanika, which I've read the manga of and liked, and of which I read the first novel of. I actually read a novel, and also decent. Like, I think the anime is fine. The politics are weird and confusing. The direction is super ass. And the CG is sometimes spiritual, sometimes atrocious. But I had kind of like a really weird fondness for it because it was so weird. And I just really liked the narrative, but the execution was really clumsy. I ended up giving it a decent 5. The designs, the original character designs are really good. And I think the character art was fine throughout the whole thing. But the guy who directed is the Berserk 2016 director, and you can tell. The studio is apparently known for having bad direction, so that was kind of just a bad accident. May read more of the novels, I'm not sure, but I have no history with reading novels to completion, so you will see. Do you want to say a few words about the Wonder Egg Priority Special?
No, I really don't.
But I'm just gonna say I still like Wonder Egg Priority. That's it.
Wonder Egg Priority is an ambitious and imperfect but still very, very good original anime.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say what I wrote in my tweet too. Very good show, but tried too much. The cipher stuff is really bad, and I think it's a stillborn love child from the industry. I still have strong positive feelings about the show, but the special was just okay. I didn't hate it though.
All right.
And we're done.
Podcast recorded.
And goodbye.